Sai, we're good to go.
Yes, all good. Good to go, Vijita.
Okay, good morning, everyone. It's a very bright, sunny day in Bangalore, at least, wherever you are, all are in the rest of the world. It's really nice to be talking to all of you guys. So, welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for today's wonderful webinar. A very interesting topic, which is about the new age globalization and localization. My name is Vijeta Shastri. I will be the moderator for this panel, and with a really wonderful and august field of logistics. And it has forced many organizations to accept the truth that innovation is indeed the need of the hour and made the old ways redundant. Co-founder of ShopRate.com. We have Shivi Jain, who's a program manager, market discovery India for German Accelerator, and she's ex-AB Bev. Then we have Krishan Mishra, enterprise sales director for Freight Tiger. We have Ganesh Chandrasekharan, ACG Consulting, and then we also have Shashi Tripathi, who's a co-founder of eShips. As I said, my name is Vijeta. I'm the executive director of Dexter Angels, and formerly I was executive director for Type Bangalore, and I've also worked with NASCOM. So we have a very interesting conversation to come forward, and of course we'll keep it as crisp and as resourceful as possible for our audience. So the first question is, what's your take on the current state of the logistics sector worldwide, and of course in our very own country, India? Going over to each of the panelists now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Vijeta. So basically, what we see in the current context of the logistics industry, although there are a lot of solutions available in the market, but they are solving one or the other problem. It's not a complete holistic solutions which is available solving all of the problems. So we realize that the companies who work on a different, like a global scale, they have shipments coming on a container basis. They have a local transportation happening through the local transporters. They work with the courier agents. They have their own fleets also. So from solutions perspective, we realize that there are a lot of loopholes or the gaps in the current industry. I mean, that is one challenge which companies are facing, where how do they manage everything on a single channel, whether it's a local transportation or whether it's a global transportation. That's one of the things which we feel as a pain point which companies come across. I mean, like we interact with many players, and that's one of the feedback which we have got. Maybe others can also share.
Yeah, I
Thank
mean,
you. We'll do it
if
like a round robin. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead. Please go ahead.
yeah. So if you look at the current logistics market across the world, right, it's about $5.9 trillion, and if you look at the developed countries, they end up spending 8 to 10%. But if you look at India, the spend is around 14 to 15%. The reason of this majorly is because of lack of infrastructure, huge dependency on roads, right? But the way I look at this whole setup is we are up for, if you look at the next 2 decades, India is going to turn this around. Majorly, I feel there are three buckets to it. One, government sort of taking big steps with Mala project, with DFCs, and plus startups like us sort of coming in, building new solutions. And the third one is very important. The way internet penetration is happening across the country, people will slowly and steadily start adopting the platforms we are building. That's the Indian setup. But if you look at the world logistics, with COVID and with whatever is happening in the world, most of these countries are now trying to find an alternate way to sort of move goods from one country to another. Like if you look at India, there was huge dependency on China for medical products. If you look at Indonesia, right, there was huge dependency for palm oil. Similarly, for oil, we had dependencies on other countries. We all are trying to figure out alternate ways to get the products. That requires a major change in the way the whole supply chain and logistics was built. I feel that's an interesting space to be in across the world.
Yeah. And I'll just add to what Krishan Mishra said. He touched upon infrastructure and also the internet penetration in India. And now we are just a few months away from the 5G launch, maybe in India and globally. We have seen the last 2 years, 5G is actually penetrated, and it is disrupting, and technology is disrupting, and 5G especially, with a seamless, say, technology shift, and say linking 5G with, say, IoTs, then UAVs, which is a drone kind of logistics, is also picking up. And we have seen in India in few places we have been using drones for, say, delivery, especially the medical delivery or medical logistics, we can say. And the other one is also the FASTag and other things have actually started being implemented across the country and being mandated. So, which means that there's a free flow of goods from one, say, one part of the state to the other states. And then we also are seeing the robos and the swarms are also coming in, and you also have all these other things like the geocoding system, the pickup, drop, and all these things are being made easy. And that is where I see the industry actually taking off, and I think it's in for a huge growth. And from a product management perspective, there's a lot of things that is also happening in terms of it's from a traditional product management. We are now also having people using data as a product, and the combination of say product, the traditional product management with data product management is going to actually help the industry grow, and that is my take.
So I think that, as Shashi said, while there are a lot of challenges, and like Krishnan said, the cost is extremely high, so close to around 15%. I think the sector is at a tipping point of a revolution at this point of time. So a few of my observation is that first thing is logistics business is as such transforming from cost centers to an end-to-end solution provider, from having both online and offline capabilities. So they're coming with a gamut of offerings, unlike before. They're moving from a rigid kind of an industry to an agile kind of an industry, and keeping, I guess, customer experience at the heart of the whole thing. Another is that what we can see is that companies which were more localized are moving global. They are expanding their networks outside the country. So which means there are better opportunities available. There are better collaborations, partnerships, and networking happening across the globe. One more that I can see is, as everyone said, the intervention of technology is sort of becoming unavoidable, and that's playing a very important role. Be it the safety, be it the cost optimization, be it transparency, etc. So I think these developments sort of, what we can see is that we are sort of entering a different era for India's logistics industry. That's what I think.
So thank you. I think everybody has covered a lot of aspects on what is happening in India in terms of logistics, right? And I think it's a good period. And since the pandemic also brought a disruption, we have kind of started taking into account a lot of technology improvements to improve the industry. And I think with the technology, there is also going to come a cost reduction. And I'm going to touch upon 2 points, especially in terms of globalization, what other countries are trying to do. Let's talk about Canada, right? Canada, uh, as a country location, right, far north, and they kind of face a lot of logistic issues because they have to export and import uh, to the extreme end. So there is a lot of opportunities which are coming into the Canadian market, and I've seen a lot of Indian startups also kind of interested in providing solutions. Uh, in India, one problem which I face is the logistics, the people who are involved in the ground level logistics, right? It's very manual work, and how we can automate that in future. And these kind of learnings we can take from some developed countries. And Krishnan already mentioned about the robotics, right? So Japan is doing a very amazing work into the robotics arm. They're already delivering not only the medical equipments but also the cargo kind of loading, unloading, and all these things. So in the last mile, they're bringing the robotics. And even in India, there are a couple of startups who have entered into the robotics landscape, and they are doing globalization. So I believe that the infusion of technology into the last mile logistics will also decrease down the cost and also make it more sustainable for in the future to come.
Thank you so much, everyone. This has been fantastic inputs to kickstart this discussion. So we talked about the global trends. We have talked about how 5G is going to make a big difference. We're talking about internet growth, government policies. Fantastic. So let me just move to the next question. Again, it's a common question, and we can continue as a roundtable. Okay, and what we would also, I mean, I think the audience is going to also ask us questions later on. But the focus question here is, why is there a need to connect, integrate all the points? That when we're saying all the points, it means dispatch, tracking, notification, reports, and analytics into one system. So please, over to the panelists to give your inputs.
Sure. So, Vijita, actually, I was part of one of the discussion which was happening on an event which was focused on the supply chain of the pharma industry. So, where we interacted with a couple of very senior folks from the Cipla and Dr. Reddy's. Companies are aware that, as Shivi was mentioning, that things are happening manually. So, from a warehouse perspective, from the locations where the dispatch is happening, things are still happening manually. All things have changed drastically in the other geographies. So from that perspective, companies are aware that although everyone want to transform, they want to bring more solutions so that it becomes digitized, the things are much in control, they have visibility, everything. But in terms of change management is where the problem is. Companies do accept that they need to improve, but how do they improve? That's one sector where we realize that there is good potential. So, and let's say that for a logistics industry, although in the this pandemic scenario, we face that all industries are facing one or other problem, but logistics was something which was being as a backbone to deliver the vaccines, medicines, and across different locations. So the real work was actually done by a driver who was actually driving these vehicles and delivering the goods to the respective the locations where it is destined to go. So the appreciation still went to the other folks who are making vaccines. No doubt they did good things. They were able to make good medicines. So these are not my words. These were coming from the pharma giants, where they were accepting that we were making things which we were already making. We just amplify the production. But what happened is the actual delivery person who is actually having the fear of getting COVID and other things, but he is still doing his job, even if someone is passing in doing his job, but still it cannot be stopped. From that perspective, what companies are aware that there is a lot of potential in India in terms of revolutionizing the digitization of logistics. So from pickup staff to delivery staff, this stitching multiple solutions and bringing everything on a single table. That's one of the very, like a gray area, and it needs a lot of revolution to happen from all the people from the ecosystem. So I think that's where the good opportunity lies for all of us. We can do something great there.
Uh, if we all look around, right, 10 years back, we all want, if a postman used to come and deliver a letter, it used to take a week, and we used to wait comfortably, right? We were not paranoid. We are living in a time where we want everything to be delivered in minutes now, not even in hours. Like if my order doesn't come in 30 minutes, I get paranoid. Where is my order? That's the question that we all are trying to answer, right? Where is my order? Now, this is B2C. It happens to all of us. But if you draw a parallel analogy, even a cement manufacturer and a cement consumer or a cement seller wants to know where is the bag of cement. Now, if you try to answer this question, there are various players, right? There is a truck driver, there is a transporter, there is a shipper. All of them are trying to solve that problem, right? That how do I deliver that material at a fastest pace in a right quantity? Now, previously, they still were doing it, and they thought that they're doing a good job. But with systems in place, now they realize that, hey, the delivery time was 20 hours. Now they can do it in 10 hours. And they can still send the same material, right? Uh, I believe the information consumption was happening in silos. And with platforms like this coming in, everyone wants to consume information in a unified way. And what that does is it sort of increases the expectation of a customer. Then all the brands have to deliver to that expectations. Now, the output still remains the same, that, hey, I want to reduce my cost, which was again the same, let's say 5 years back. Uh, in the next 5 years, I believe focus will move away from hygiene to actually tracking those cost metrics and looking at ROI from operations, from platforms.
Yeah, I think just to add to the points that Sashi and Krishan actually mentioned. So one is a cost factor, the other one is a delivery and the time factor, and it is also now I think in some of the places in US and other places you see that it's $1 for some £5 is what Amazon and others actually charge, and UPS and FedEx, who are the traditional logistics guys, are charging slightly higher, but I'm sure that will also kind of plateau down and over the years. The other thing that we also have to look at is one is the reducing of the shipping and the operational cost is one thing, and the other thing that we also have to keep in mind is the delivery at the speed of click. So that is another thing, because many times we almost go to the we just go to the e-commerce site, make all the decisions, but we just don't go to proceed because there is a little bit more forms that are there which we don't want to fill, and everybody wants a form to be just one click away. That is another one, and another thing which I would also try to bring into, say, for a point of discussion is how do we eliminate the return hassles, because that is another thing. See, one thing is you're shipping it out and the delivery happens, and then what happens if I have to get the return, and how do we eliminate the return? And that is something which I put it here on the table for others also to kind of share their experiences.
So I think mostly everyone has covered a lot of points. So I'll just digress a bit into how logistics is playing a role in businesses. So I think the dispatch to tracking to notification is an answer to that part. So unlike before, where logistics was considered as a mere transportation of goods, I think it's evolving into something like a moat or a USP for a business. So it's becoming a differentiator element for you. So the question is, how can you build that capability around your business in logistics? That the differentiating factor, right? So a few critical points I think for that is, one would be, like I said earlier, transforming yourself into a integrated online offline capability kind of a solution. So say as a business, during COVID, I guess everybody went online, but the fact remains that offline is still a big chunk of the overall experience of a consumer. So how do you design that journey? For instance, say, can the customer see your product online, then come and experience it offline, and probably go back online and compare with other products, and then make the transaction online? And maybe can you deliver it from your retail store within 24 hours? So it's an entire designing of the system, right, to manage the offline to online experience of consumer. So this can become a key differentiator for you. Another would be like, how can you take your self globally and alternate markets to de-risk yourself? That can become your USP. One final thing here would be, again, how digitization can reduce the cost, like they said, and probably bring in transparency across the consumer journey, right? So it's evolving into how can logistics become a differentiating factor for you as a business. For instance, the biggest example is, say, Asian Paints, right? You would think Asian Paints is a paint business, but and being such a competitive market, how are they able to survive in the market, defeating all the competition? Because they are probably the only company who can rotate the inventory for their dealers every 3 to 4 hours. So it's impossible when you are having that kind of a logistic capability across the country for a competitor to enter the market. So I guess, yeah, that's my take on sort of creating logistics as a USP for your business, and digitization as part of that.
Nikita, in your case, I think it's very important, since you're doing international transactions also. I mean, providing the visibility in the best way is a very key element, because every customer will have a different expectation, the timelines or the time zones actually, when to communicate, what to communicate. Those things must be very important.
Right. Absolutely. I think it's not just the time zones. Like you said, the factors are multiple, right? There are so many regulatory aspects. There are so many customs related aspects. There are so many
Correct.
variations and around it. So managing that communication and transparency becomes a very, very important thing across the journey of
Yeah,
a consumer.
yeah. Another thing that I think I would like to also add is because Nikita also touched upon it is on say the Asian Paints example. So they are a hardcore manufacturing company, and suddenly you
Yeah,
are trying to bring in a little bit of or little bit of more of digitization. So you have two sets of product managers involved out there or products involved.
right,
So typically,
right,
the software hardware is one thing that the digital guys will actually look at, and the actual product in terms of the logistics, what it actually takes, is another one. Another thing that the others will look at, like the distribution, sales, marketing, product marketing is something, or the branding, and other things is what the shop floor product person will look at. Whereas, say, if you look at the digital product guy, he will actually start looking at the installation, the pricing, the servers, and all these things. So that is another thing. That is where both the product team as such should have it should be a kind of a evolved or an inclusive product management where people don't work in silos and they work together, so that all the points that you asked Vijeta on, say the point on the time factor, the dispatch, tracking, notification, everything can be synchronized, and it can work together smoothly.
Um, so I just kind of put in some comments. Actually, everybody has covered a lot of parts, but I would like to touch how logistics is solving different problems for businesses. Like Nikita also told about the Asian Paints, how logistics can solve data problems for big corporates, how logistics can solve inventory leakage, inventory related problems for big corporates. So there are a lot of corporates, right? I've worked in a couple of corporates before in the logistics segment, right? There are different problems, right? Sometimes the data problem, which a lot of corporates who are into B2B to C, right? They don't have the direct customer data. How logistics can solve that is with the end-to-end tracking, right? So tracking can also solve the data collection problem for different corporates. The major problem for any corporate, be it FMCG, CPG, or any kind of company, is inventory leakage. You have given your inventory out from your manufacturing hub where it is. There are different ways of inventory leakage, right? Stolen goods, expiry goods, breakage, and all those things, right? But if you're tracking your shipment from one point to one point, you know. So in case of cargo, right, when you are transporting some, like we have discussed on a lot of these food items, right, which has small shelf life. If this shelf life, sometimes you can increase the shelf life, or sometimes you have to increase the logistics and the delivery time. So this is the case of example of Amul, what Amul did during COVID, right? They kind of just bend out the logistics, collection of milk, supply of the goods during the COVID. They were collecting milk from farmers, going through the help of their delivery team and everything. They just turn it around and build a business out of it in just 3 months. So logistics can also solve a lot of different problems related to new product development, inventory leakage, inventory safety, even data collection. And then a lot of people are not talking about it in India right now. But reverse logistics is something which is very important for the businesses, and how Indian companies can also look into it. There are different European companies who are coming up, who are also dealing into the reverse logistics and developing solutions. Also, kind of adding to the sustainability part of the sustainability aims of all the corporates. So, a lot of things with this tracking is solved with the notification dispatch tracking. This whole end-to-end solution can be solved, not only the last mile delivery, but different other business problems which can also be solved using these digitalizations of solutions. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you so much, everyone. This has been a masterclass, I think, in all the various industries. So now let's keep it as crisp as possible because we are about 20 minutes into the conversation. So what I will do is again, there are two more common questions coming up. So one is, in various businesses, I know we talked about Asian Paints. She will give an example of reverse logistics. But if you are each one of you can give some different examples, right from the point of say the time the order has been placed and from the time to dispatch and actual delivery, what are the various aspects that a business has to keep in mind during this journey? If you can give some examples, it will be fantastic. Thank you.
Maybe we can start. Krishna, you want to start? I think we'll break the pattern. Anyone can
Yeah,
start.
absolutely break the pattern. Yeah, usually they say ladies first, but it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, anything is okay. Ladies always first.
Yeah. Uh, Firstly, I think one needs to understand and acknowledge that there is a big gap. If you look at especially in B2B business, right, from the time an order is placed until the time a customer gets an order and the transporter gets paid, typically the cycle is about 50 to 60 days. So imagine a transporter getting paid after 60 days for one transaction he's doing. Now, if you break this entire cycle, right, there are multiple operations happening at the same time. So all the parties who are involved, firstly, they have to acknowledge that, yes, order to payment takes a lot of time. How do we compress it? Once you acknowledge that point and work towards it and identify, okay, where are my slippages, right? If, for example, order management takes, let's say, 10 days, delivery takes another 15 days, and let's say from delivery to a transporter getting paid takes about 25 days, then working specifically on these problem statements will help sort of reducing or compressing the overall cycle. Now, what if you look at, there are two, three parts to it, right? How do we solve this? One is to sort of look at a technology solving this to an extent, right? But I come back to the same point. Someone who's working on the ground has to use the technology and realize that, okay, technology can do this bit, but ultimately I have to go to the system, log into a system, process the information, and pass it to the next stakeholder. I believe that is the bigger challenge than just using the technology.
Correct.
Yeah, whoever wants to go next, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So basically, I mean, since we're discussing on the, global and the Indian perspective, so what use case I wanted to share from our side is, I mean, like we work with very large corporates and courier companies together. So the problem which we realize from the global market perspective is the documentation. Although you have products in place, you know that there is a need in the market. People from USA want to purchase your product, or from other geographies also, but how do we deliver in the best way possible? So I mean, in terms of the documentation, due diligence, it should not happen that I am delivering and later on I'm coming across some scenarios where customs are sending some kind of notifications and all. So from that perspective, there are a lot of evolution in terms of structuring of the customs formalities has happened in the last 5 years, I can say. So earlier, people were sending more of personal shipment. Even if it is a commercial, since they want to avoid the long documentation process, they were declaring it more as a personal shipment, although it's a commercial. So from that perspective, government has done some changes. They have made something called CSB4, CSB5 shipments. They have eased out the process of documentation in terms of electronic trade documents, processing all of these orders much faster than what they earlier. Customers were facing a problem that the shipment is going to customs and then it is stuck because of one document missing. Although the document was provided by someone, but since it's not digitally available, someone has to send this back once again. So till that time, for the next 2 to 3 days, it will be lying in some custom zone actually. So what we have done from eShip's point of view, so what we work on is something called electronic trade documents, where a shipper who is going to dispatch the goods to the global location, they can upload these documents digitally. So the courier companies will have this access of the data at any given point of time. Let's say that the cargo is stuck because the commissioner at any airport is not processing because of the documentation not there. They can access at 2 o'clock in the morning and print out the documents and submit it. So it should not be creating some kind of backlog, or maybe creating some kind of, so the velocity of the movement of goods should not be affected. So it should move as fast as possible. So from that perspective, I think there are a lot more to be done, but I think from eShip's perspective, we are trying to digitize this with electronic trade documents, which can be helpful for the sellers and our customers who are using our platform.
So I think so. The question is about how businesses can streamline their logistics, right? So I think first point is to be able to identify that logistics is a key driver of their business. So once you identify that it's a key driver, then you need to integrate logistics into your overall business plan and design a macro logistics plan around it. Not saying on day one you need to solve for that plan, but you should have probably a integrated plan for some time into the future. The third thing is, I think, to probably build crucial partnerships across the value chain, from inventory management to first mile delivery to, say, last mile or whatever it is, across the value chain. How can you build partnerships so that you can have a end-to-end suite offering to your customers, as well as probably reduce the cost, right? Because you don't need to build everything on your own. There are, partners available who are specialized in certain things to sort of integrate with them. So this also leads me to another point, which is even within a functionality, if possible, try to have multiple partners to de-risk yourself, in cases of operation, especially in COVID situations and things like that. So building crucial partnerships, reducing costs, improving customer offering, and de-risking yourself. The next is, once you have these partnerships across the value chain, I think it's about having a centralized system to connect this. This is where technology can come into picture, where you are going to have to consolidate the different partnerships that you have built across. So there might be one for warehousing, another one for the 3PL logistics partnership, and somebody else for inventory management, somebody for one region of the country, somebody for cross-border. So sort of centralizing the decentralized pieces, I would say, so that it's basically a technological integration. And finally, maybe also look at it from a sustainability perspective as well. One is from the company perspective, as well as a environmental perspective. How are you, how committed are you in terms of a long-term reduction of wastage and things like that? So I think this is what my understanding is about, building a holistic plan for streamlining logistics.
I think you have very well summarized it. I'll touch upon something which you asked, Vijita, is how we can bring innovations. I think to some extent, Nikita also touched that you need not to build everything in house. You can always take help of what people are doing in the market, and this will take a long time to do that kind of research for a company and bring in that kind of technology, especially when you're talking about the whole supply chain. So when I used to work for the beer manufacturer, we used to say glass to grain to glass. So that's the whole life cycle: picking up the produce, building up, making the product, and then pouring it into the glass. Right? That's the whole supply chain. The first part was to resources that make. So it's like Krish mentioned, you need to agree that you might have problems. You need first to identify money because to businesses to change their whole cycle, it is an incurring cost. A or incurred by the business. So instead of doing that, use incremental innovations. Try to fix it, because that's a way for the smaller SMEs to go about. If you can afford, please understand, like you should have two trails. What can be the incremental innovation, and where I want to be in the 5 years? Because in the 5 years, but then again in the 5 years, new technologies will come, and you have to incorporate those. But there needs to be two parallel track. What I can do now to fix those problems, to reduce cost and optimize my supply chain, and what I should do in next 5 years to completely turn it to an automated version. So this is how we used to take an approach, what we can do now and what we should do to reduce the cost. And bringing external innovations always helped, because when you bring external innovation, it's not only just the people who are coming in, but also the new ideas and new thinking comes into picture. So yeah.
And finally, I would just add a couple of things. See, one is to keep the customers in mind, because customer experience is something that we need to look at. And the other one is also take customer feedback seriously. So where if they want some paper-based, say, kind of packaging to be done and sent, we have to look at that. So that is one thing. The other one is also streamline the process at the shop floor level itself. If that is also done, keeping in view, say, the wastage, keeping in view the wastage factor, I think that will help the industry in a large way, because you can actually deal with the lessening the return or the rejection rate. So, because one example that I would like to share is one of the use cases that I'm currently working on is it's not a consumer space. It's more on the end deliveries for a consumer product, but it's more of setting the process right at the shop floor level to reduce the rejection rate, say from some 25% about 5 to 6%. So for that, the basic raw material that comes is from the industrial sand. So we are just trying to see how we can improve the process, because if the industry sand passes through, say, some two states, the temperature, moisture, everything changes, and whether it's having an impact on the actual process that is being done at the shop floor. So for that, what kind of automation can be brought in is another thing that we are thinking and trying to work with, say, some of these logistics company to put in a QR code, or maybe say. Some of the other digitization that we can kind of think about. And then once you come in, you do a little bit of quality testing and checking, and then see whether the whatever sand that you get is actually the sand that you want to use, and it can be directly used, or whether it needs more process or iteration. So that what happens is, when it goes from the base, this is the first stage, to the second, third, or fourth stage at the shop floor level, whether it helps in reducing the kind of rejection rate. Because at the end of the day, you do all the project, say, the process, and then finally you find that, okay, because of the sand that has been transported, say, and it took about 5 days or 6 days to reach the destination, there are some issues out there. So two things. One is a process part of it. Then what kind of digitization, and working very closely with the logistics company and see if they can also accommodate from the point of view of the shop floor or the manufacturing side.
Thank you so much, Ganesh. So we have been
So
talking about, yeah,
just want to
please
add
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
just want to add what Nikita and Shivi said, right? I'm seeing a trend in the Indian logistics space, right? 5, 6 years back, every large company wanted to build platforms in house. They were not comfortable with an outsider coming in and providing their solution. But now, if you see, uh, for every problem statement in logistics space, there is a startup trying to solve that problem statement, right? Now the trend is moving towards solving that specific problem statement to how can I have one company solve end to end. But that's not going to happen, right? SAP or Salesforce or all these big ERPs were not built in one day. They have taken 2 decades, 3 decades to sort of solve these end to end problems. So realizing and it has to be like done in both ways. Like startups trying to solve all the problem statements over a period of 2, 3 years will not going to work. Instead of focusing vertical growth, otherwise, I don't think it's a wise thing to do at this point of time. Looking at one problem statement and trying to sort of solve them end to end is a way forward, especially with large enterprises. Vijita, you're on mute.
Okay, so very interesting insights that is coming in with the innovation, and totally agree that yes, startups are very critical to solve all these big problems. So now, just to give a context to the panel, that we are about almost 40 minutes into the discussion. So the last common question that we want to talk about, I know that drone and way it is delivering medicines or pizzas, etc., as we talked about, but if you all can give very crisp insights and just make sure that we are disciplined on that drone technology, innovations, and apart from whatever Amazon or DHL is doing, what else have you all seen? Any other specific examples, very, very specific examples that you want to give where drone technologies or other technologies, robotics, etc., is making a very, very massive difference? Go for it, folks.
Yeah, quick take is I was just working on, say, one of the POCs using 5G, and also it's kind of there are these drone companies which are now working closely with the telecom guys, and one of the company is into drone pads actually, where you can actually, which is another huge thing that is coming up. You need for the drone infrastructure, network infrastructure, and then for helping the drones land, and that way that is one thing, and also the drone monitoring is another thing which is there, and drone insurance. These are the three things that I see that is coming up in a big way, and I think that is going to disrupt the industry uh, in the near future.
I think with that, one important factor all of us will have to work towards is uh, finding the right places, right? Where to deliver that material, right? Today, us humans are not able to deliver the material at the right location, right? Especially in Indian setup. I feel, that work has to happen in parallel before relying too much on a technology to sort of deliver the material on a right location, because still the addresses in the systems are not correct. So yeah, that's my take on it.
So I think that three key problems that we are going to face in the coming days is one is going to be, how the labor cost is going to increase significantly, because as the economy progresses, there's going to be upskilling of labor, and definitely the labor cost is going to increase. Second is going to be the volumes, the sheer volumes are just going to, increase, and the demand is not going to be.
Nikita, I guess you are on mute.
Yeah, we can't hear you now, Nikita. Sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you. Not
No,
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 we
audible.
can't
no.
hear you. I think
Nikita, if it's trouble, you can join us back. You want to just go out and come back? Yeah, there's some problem with your audio. No stress, just join back. That's the best way to solve problems.
Shiva, you would like to add something?
Yeah, Shivi, you want to?
Yeah.
Anyone else wants to join in till Nikita comes
Yes,
back? Yeah.
sure. I'll just add, I will mostly touch upon the startups because I've been working in Israel and Germany and other countries, right? And we have like amazing drone startups who are actually have covered 50,000 plus delivery models. Even I was working with one of the Indian startup who has helped Karnataka government during COVID, not only to deliver medicines and everything, but also for the surveillance purpose. So the Karnataka government has used this startup called Tesla. Sorry, uh, I'll not take the name of the startup right now, but they were using those to alarm the public who was standing in the crowd. So they have attached a beeper. It will kind of the signals will go to the police, and the nearest policeman will tell to just disperse. So there have been small success stories in India as well. But we have been working in Germany with couple of startups like Wingcopter who have been doing amazing work, not only delivering medical goods but also some spare parts. So they have been using these startup is basically for the defense mechanism. So suppose you are in the fight and you have lost some vehicle difficulty, they will be supplying the spare parts to those in need. So these kind of startups are coming up. I see more value because of these startups, but I strongly believe these startups should not be used for the day-to-day delivery, but more for the advanced delivery when the people are not, it's not approachable. The location is not approachable, and if we focus on solving those use cases, we can build really good solutions with drone. And then a couple of other solutions which are coming to support these drone technology startups, right? Charging of these drones, tracking, data collection, how to automate these drones, how to operate these drones. So there is a big market which will be coming into the drone logistics soon, and it's already has been started.
Vijay, I would like to add something here. We were speaking to one in the manufacturing industry very recently, and they have this problem of identifying the right spare parts coming from different partners, which could be a domestic partner or international partner. Also, there are a lot of like the fake products are also getting supplied to these larger corporates, and since they don't have any way to identify whether this is fake unless they do a proper check of each individual item, and leading to a lot of recall of the products also. Like you have heard of scenarios where the Ola scooter is catching fire. So not that every scooter is having this problem, but because of one of the other spare parts which was not right, it led to that incident. It's again under discussion stage. It's not yet finalized. But I was speaking to one of the very large manufacturing giant in this. So they were saying that there is a very good need of identifying the right product coming from different locations. So let's say that if it's coming from China, I have given like a purchase order to X vendor, but he's again outsourcing to Y and then to Z. So there is multiple layers of people who are involved in completing the supply chain. So are these guys uh, like sound enough to give me that material, or do I have to create a system of my own? So they're coming with some concept of like a blockchain where they will be able to like identify in each stages from where and how the goods are coming. So each will have a not only QR code, but it need to be authenticated at different stages that this is coming from different person, and it does not need to be verified when the problem occurs. So that was one blockchain incident which we were happy to hear from this company actually. And in terms of drones also, I think they have done very in the last 2-3 years. I think government of India has given permission to the drone companies, and they are helping a lot in terms of not only surveillance but in terms of other activities also. Particularly in case of providing the medical supplies to the extreme locations, maybe helping even the people who are conducting elections in the
Hi,
remote
I'm
places.
back. Nikita, you wanted to add some things, right, before you got locked off?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Shashi is speaking. Let him finish.
No, I think almost done. So that's what I was trying to mention. So one is a blockchain. The second one is more on the, like how drones are enabling companies to do multiple work across industry.
Yeah, I think my points were more
Sorry,
or
am
less.
I audible? I'm not sure.
Yes,
You're
Yeah.
yes,
audible.
Vijay, you are audible. We
Yeah,
have
so
to
my
see.
points were more or less around, like I was saying the first point is the increase in labor cost that's going to come up. Second is the sheer increase in the volumes that we'll not be able to handle the demand with the current systems in place. Another would be the fact that, tier two, tier three cities are having a lack of infrastructure. The infrastructure growth is sort of slower, but the demand is much higher. So another would be the data visibility across the value chain, right? So I think any technology that's going to solve for these problems are going to really grow in the coming days. Drones, as part of that, is going to definitely have a place in logistics, without which we might not be able to address these problems. The other are, like, I think companies like eShips, which are trying to integrate multiple, points across the what do you call the value chain, trying to integrate from dispatch to delivery. I think startups like these can also add a lot of value and integrate the system altogether.
Thank you so much, everyone. Now, to the panelists, what we'll do is, of course, there are going to be your potential customers are here. There are people who might be wanting to do partnerships with you. So I'll just go to some individual questions, and just to give the context, it's 11:50, so we'll keep it as easy for each one of you as possible. Okay. So if it's, I will start now with. I'll come back to you itself, Nikita, where we'll talk about what are the initiatives that Shopre has taken, across all the borders in your operations. What are the specific things that you would like to share with the audience? Please go ahead.
Uh, Thank you for the question, Vijeta. So, I think from our perspective, we're sort of early movers in cross-border B2C e-commerce space. So, while B2B e-commerce exports have been, there from time immemorial, B2C space is slightly nascent. So, I think most of our time has been spent figuring out how to even efficiently manage this whole system, right? So one of the key things I guess we have been doing is work on the regulatory front. So moving goods from country A to country B involves a lot of regulatory interchanges and exchanges. So we've been trying to work around that to ensure that the customers and businesses working with us are compliant and ensure that they don't have any regulatory hiccups in their journey. So that's one front we have worked on. Second is probably strengthening our logistics partners, because that's our key thing, right? So we've brought in more partners into the ambit and trying to improve our warehousing infrastructure across the country and probably in other countries to bring down costs and improve efficiency. Another would be probably solving for this foreign currency problems. That's one of the key things in cross-border e-commerce, right? So we're trying to build an integrated payment solution to manage that. And like I said before, from beginning, we wanted to be a bit more carbon reduction committed, right? So our business model itself is one where we are a user gets 20 days free storage within which they can buy from multiple stores. We put it all into one box and send it, right? So we vis-a-vis individual shipments, we're trying to consolidate the products and send it to their doorstep, sort of. It's a win-win situation. Consumer gets a cost saving, and I think we are trying to reduce the carbon footprint across the globe. So these are few of the things, apart from, yes, customs and other regulatory aspects, which we are trying to consolidate and make it more transparent for people venturing into cross-border shipments. Yeah, that's about what we've been doing.
Thank you so much, Nikita. You're mentioning about the carbon footprint and solving the foreign currency and regulatory problems. All the best with everything that you're doing.
Thank
Okay,
you.
fantastic, fantastic, so much. All right, now I will just move to Shivi. All right. Shivi, you're working with German Accelerator, and you have been helping German startups expand globally. I've also, thanks to you, I've had the privilege of interacting with some of these really phenomenal founders. And yes, Asia is a prominent market. So, keeping that in mind, would love to hear from you. How exactly is German Accelerator helping companies globalize? Thank you. Over to you, Shivi.
Okay, thank you, Vijita. So we are basically a German government-backed accelerator. We German Accelerator is one of the bigger project taken under the arm of German Entrepreneurship Asia. We do work with German startups. We also work with Singapore startups, and we have offices all over the globe. So you can say we kind of a logistics platform for startups, right? Helping startups scale, help them in soft lending and everything. So we do this with the help of our two structured programs. One is market discovery, and the other one is market access. Market discovery is a short duration program where you want to test the waters before even lending. That's what we do through the market discovery. And then market access is a full backed 6 to 7 months long program where we help you not only with the setup of the company, soft lending with bank, government funding, even investor funding and corporates association. So we have a pool of these things and we help you out. For the German startups, the good thing is we are open for every startup possible from every country in the world. But we do help German startups predominantly because the cost of these programs are fully subsidized for these things, and we don't take anything from the German startups. For some other countries where we have a government partnership established, part of the cost is paid by the government and the part by the startup. So this is what we do. Now coming to the Asia market, right? We have a very strong presence in the Asian market. India is what I'm handling along with my one other colleague. And then we have offices in Singapore where we look into the Singapore and all the Southeast Asia market. We also have very strong presence in Japan, South Korea, and we are also very closely associated with the government. Japan government programs like Tokyo Invest by Metropolitan Tokyo, right? They are eagerly looking for some logistic startups to actually come and solve the problems in Japan, and they are also providing free support along with funding opportunities to the startup. The program is just launched, I think, couple of days back. You can actually check out the website. You can apply for all the startups who are listening in the logistics space. Can actually check it out. We have a very structured approach, and we have been working with couple of very good startups, especially in drones capability. One of the startup which is almost ranked top 10 in the world for drone delivery and defense segment. They also tried Indian market, and they have been in close conversations with Indian government as well. So we help these startups understanding the cultural aspect, the legal aspect, and everything possible by kind of connecting them with the industry experts in the country. So that's a model we kind of apply in US, Japan, South Korea, China, Southeast Asia, and all the other different locations in the world.
Thank you so much, Shivi, and I'm sure that some of the folks here, maybe everyone, would love to know more from you later on. And
Sure.
I'll move to the next question, and this question is specifically for Freight Tiger and for Krishnan. That Freight Tiger's tagline. Thank you, Shivi. Thank you so much. I'm now moving to Krishnan. Krishnan, you can just what I would like to understand from you is your tagline. It says all movement, no chaos. So, how does this capture Freight Tiger's latest innovation and initiatives in India to upscale logistical operations? Over to you, Krishnan.
Thank you. Firstly, we've tried to build an intelligent. Vijita, I think there is some background noise. You can put yourself on mute. Hey, Vijita, can you hear me? Okay, I didn't tell him to go. Yeah.
No, you can continue, Krishna.
Yeah. So we've built an intelligent operating system, which basically comprises of a technology and a on-ground control tower. And recent addition is a digital freight network. Together, they streamline every step of the logistics process. The technology part sort of gives you much needed end-to-end visibility and digitization. Control tower, in a way, sort of takes care of all on-ground exceptions, and last but not least, the digital freight network in a way helps you to sort of bridge the gap of demand and supply in the road transportation. We have close to 60 plus shippers on our platform and close to 4,500 LSPs. We discussed quite a bit of Asian Paints. It's one of our customers who use the platform to sort of digitize their end-to-end journey. Now, at a high level, broadly, some of the key problem statements we are trying to solve is to sort of help customers deliver on time and in full, help the customers track their delivery placement efficiencies, and at the end of the day, help them sort of optimize their entire freight movement.
Thank you very much, Krishnan. Am I audible, guys? Just quickly checking that I'm
Yes,
audible. Yeah,
yes, yes.
fantastic. And I just love this tagline, right? All movement, no chaos. It doesn't. I mean, I don't know. It makes it sound so interesting because what we see is chaos on Indian roads and everything. But awesome stuff, Krishnan. Whoever brought out this tagline, you should thank them
Yeah,
for it. It's a beautiful tagline.
thank you.
Okay. Yes, yes. And of course, a small apology to the audience. At times, there's a lag. Apologies for that. Now, I would like to move on to Ganesh. Ganesh, you say that your specialization in product management has made you achieve wonders. So, please, we would really like to understand how product management plays a key role in comprehending new age globalization and localization in the logistics industry. Over to you, Ganesh. Thank you.
Hey, Ganesh, you are on mute. Ganesh, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah, thanks, Vijita. And over the years, if you see, product management is just an evolving field. And in India, if you look at it, there are a lot of companies, especially product companies, that are coming out. Earlier, we were more of a services kind of a company, and now you see a lot of these product companies that are coming out. So, from a logistics, I don't want to get into other industry, but purely from a logistics perspective, I'll try to bring in highlight some 5 6 points. See, one is the product managers should incorporate logistics as a core component of their product strategy itself from the beginning, rather than you build a product and then you start figuring out, okay, I built a product, then you go to the say the product marketing, the sales, and other guys and saying that, hey, what do we do now? And how do we kind of go back? And the other one is also working very closely with what I call as the data product managers. So that is the second one that I would say. And the product manager should also define, say, the product strategy with the go-to-market strategy as well. So that is another thing which they can look at incorporating. And some of the mistakes that most product companies do is on pricing or say or delivery is they're not particularly well suited to a specific product or a market. They just do it for a generic thing, and then they try to figure out what kind of pricing or what kind of say delivery model that they have to look at. And then finally, some of the four other points that I would like to kind of touch upon is on the uh, given that there are a lot of these automation that are happening, is they have to understand what are the real points and what are the kind of problems that they are solving. I think which you touched upon, Vijita, at the very beginning. And then what is the design that they're going to look at in terms of appearance, brand, or voice, and all these things. And from a voice perspective, I think the Free Tigers tagline says it all. And then from a capability model, like why you? And what are the product capabilities, whether it is a data driven product or whether you're bringing in algorithms that is going to help the customers give a delightful experience, or it's going to be a completely into the patent part of it, like, okay, my product is something which is unique and new that I've come in, all the process capabilities, I think, which Shivi had touched upon, and also Nikita had touched upon on the relationships and partnerships. So these are the three. And the fourth one is what kind of process and medium to deliver the product. So which is what I've been working on from a product perspective for all these, some of these manufacturing companies, trying to bring in either a QR code or simplify the digitization processes, and also bring in, say, some element of IoT and other things to digitize, moving them from a manually handwritten, maintaining a notebook or a ledger kind of a thing into digitization. So, say from a PM perspective, these are the 4 points broadly. And then some of the common one has to be related to the pricing strategy or the customer support or the installation part. This is purely from a software hardware perspective. And then what are the manufacturing and shipping consideration for physical goods? So that is where how are we going to partner with all these companies and also build the forms so that the delivery, whether it's cash on delivery and all these mechanisms can be brought in. And finally, what are the distribution channels, whether it's going to be a physical one or a showroom driven one, and how are we going to blend these two together? A typical example would be a lens card or maybe the carrot lane and all these guys. So how are we going to kind of solve the bridge the gap out there? So these are the things that I say broadly from a product management perspective that we should keep in mind, and link it with the product strategy, the broad-based product strategy, not just from a product manager's perspective or product strategy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ganesh. Yes, I resonate with everything that you're saying. Uh, I would just take 10 seconds to say this. I have worked with Arvind Brands, Taj Hotels, Metro Cash and Carry, Reliance Retail. We used to go through such tough times, okay? And you know, this logistics and getting the goods in, making sure that it goes through the till. There's so much of tension. There was so much of fights that we used to have. And I think the way that all of you all have been solving these big problems on B2B and B2C, hats off and kudos, and of course, more power to each and every single one of you. So thank you, everyone. And now I will come to Shashi. Shashi, with e-ships, you all have been expanding globally and in India as well. So how are you going about it, and what is the story that you want to tell to your audience, to your partners, to your customers? Over to you, Shashi.
Sure. Thank you, Vijay. Uh, so we are more of a platform which enable shippers to digitize their logistics. So we are currently integrated with 135 carriers, and there is a plan to add another 20 in the next couple of months from that perspective. So how we help the shippers is you don't need to worry about how are you going to process your orders. I mean, from the data and related tracking perspective, we can enable them in the best way possible. So we provide a universal shipping API which companies can consume and automate their shipping. So let's say that a company which is into B2B or B2C space, the dispatching the goods to one location or across different geographies, the common challenge which they face is how do I integrate the service partners. So today I'm only in India. I'm working with 5 partners right now. But tomorrow, if I have to go to the global market, maybe these 5 partners will not be there. So if I have to find the right service partner? How do I identify who are the right service partner for me? In case if I identified this, are they available somewhere in a common platform rather than me developing integrations for 5 for the other geography also? Let's say that if you identified USA as a market, can I go immediately? I mean, rather than having a lead time of 3 to 6 months to understand the APIs and then develop these integrations and all. So we provide a universal shipping API for them. They can consume this and start shipping. That is one way we are helping sellers. Second thing, as I mentioned at the start of the discussion, actually, so we actually help them in digitizing their electronic trade documents. So the kind of documents which are required for international shipping, do you have the data present at any given point of time, rather than going through a database where you are filtering and finding through hard copies and then submitting it to the GST or maybe the customs regulatory authorities and all. So from that perspective, we provide a more of a common platform where they can access the data even if they have dispatched the shipment 2 years back also. So that electronic trade document is where we are working. We are trying to improve the systems in the best way so that they don't need to worry about what happened when I have dispatched the shipment 1.5 year back. So that is a one, like a big development which we have in pipeline. Apart from this, we feel that US and European market is more of a saturated market from solutions perspective. When I say solutions, means there are so many startups already having presence there. They have digitized to the best extent. There is still scope, but there are a lot of players available. But when we look into the other markets, which are Gulf and maybe Southeast Asia, I think that's where the good opportunities are. So our focus will be to go to these markets. If any seller who is looking to automate the logistics or maybe dispatch process at these locations, we can be of help. Happy to connect after this call. Anything required, do reach out to us.
Very nicely said, Shashi. You're a great sales guy. You positioned it and spoken about what your company does very beautifully. So thank you for that, Shashi. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are just crossed the 1 hour mark, and all good things have to come to an end, and we have to sum it up and we have to move forward. So, for each one of you, if you have a message to send out to your audience, to the various people who could be your partners, could be your collaborators, could be your customers, if you have to say something to them as to why they should work with you and talk to you later, what would you want to say? Over to you, folks.
Yes, I think from our side, what we'll say that we are. The data points can be shared. If you want any kind of information from our side in terms of how are we working, maybe some case studies, you can reach out to us. Happy to share those inputs. Look forward, and sure we are doing with a lot of sellers. We can do something with you also. So that's fine.
Thank you so much, Shashi.
So from my side, I would say that anything related to product management, in terms of mentoring and also handholding product strategy, and that is one. The second one is also, since I'm also part of the NASCOM skill development, feel free to join our community, and probably you'll benefit because there's a pool of product managers sitting out there, and they will help you solve the problems. And we are also, as part of the NPS, we're also kind of say having webinars and master classes and all these things. So I request you all to join the community and also connect with me offline. Thank you.
So we are into cross-border e-commerce. Shopway is into cross-border e-commerce. So we would love to partner with businesses and help them take their products globally. Would be really happy to connect. And we are, as we are completing around 5 years right now, and we are having a new product which we are going to launch, especially for the US markets. So would be great to connect and explore synergies if you're interested in looking to expand in the US markets. We are also coming up with a special plan for small businesses worth of 50,000 rupees of benefits in terms of shipping and to expand into US markets. ShopRate 5 will be the code that can be used by you guys to avail that. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or anywhere to discuss the same. Thank you.
Freebies is always good, Nikita. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, 5 years, right? So calls for some celebration.
Yeah. Thanks for the very insightful panel to all the panel members and audience for listening in. If you are looking to expand your startup to any country, especially Germany and other countries, you can reach out to us. If you want to know more about the insights, what's happening in different countries, you can also reach out to me. I also help startups scale to Canada. So if you're looking for that geography, feel free to reach. I'm on LinkedIn, easy to connect.
Thank you, Shivi.
Yeah, if you are interested in learning how we have solved some of the deeper problem statements across industries like cement, tire, steel, paint, would be more than happy to sort of take you through what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. So that's Freight Tiger for you.
Thank you so much, Kishan. Would love to go through those case studies myself as well. Thank you for offering to share this. That's very, very
Yeah,
kind of you. Thank you so much.
yeah.
So that's it, ladies and gentlemen, and to all the still who are still with us, listening in, and thanks to the organizers, Sai, Vinay, for putting this together, and to each and every one of you. Right, you all gave so much of quality insights. More than happy through the organizing team, we can even take some pressy and we can share it with a larger audience, to the larger community. Anyone who's in logistics, anyone who's in the product management, startups who are looking for innovation and want to collaborate with each and every one of these wonderful panelists, we must enable this. So with this closing remarks, I want to thank everyone. Have a wonderful day ahead. And to the panelists, I would love to stay in touch with each and every single one of you. Take care and look up yourself. I would love to know more about how you are expanding. I will make sure I follow you guys on LinkedIn, your company expansions, and let's you all are startups too. So we should consultants, startups, mentors. So kudos and cheers to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
Thank
much.
you.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.